Blessings, my dear friends. Boy, it's been a long time. I've had some videos to upload, but I haven't been able to do so. Not because I didn't want to, but because life has taken me into an interesting direction. But by the grace of God, it has only worked out to the furthering and further spreading of His Word in literature evangelism. But God is good. For Romans 8:28, all things, we know that all things work for the good of them who love God, who are the called according to His purposes. And what is God's purpose? Our sanctification. God's purpose is that a knowledge of God be spread to all the world, for God is not willing that any should perish, but that all will be saved. So my dear friends, I have to make this video short because my access to high-speed internet is limited, and so I have to shorten these videos. That way I can get them to you. So first and foremost, this video is primarily for those who are not Adventists, who do not, or should I say, who are not familiar, I should say, with our teachings. Nevertheless, those who are Adventists can certainly glean something and can be armed to answer those who are not, or who they themselves who have not come to this knowledge as yet. So the two grand themes, let's jump right into it. The two grand themes in our world today, we could say it's ironic, but we know there's no such thing as irony because we serve a wise and all-knowing, intelligent God. The two grand themes in our world today are health and the switching over to a plant-based diet, and Sabbath. And this is interesting. I'm going to read this quote, and this is primarily for Adventists, and I'm going to make a quick comment and then we're going to jump right into it. So here is the quote. It says, "The Sabbath question will be the issue in the great conflict in which all the world will act apart." The Sabbath question will be the issue in the great conflict in which all the world will act apart. This we have known, but we did not know how it would happen. But here we are. It's coming underneath the umbrella of climate change. Now, let's jump forward to two grand themes: the Sabbath and health reform. And guess what? God has put forth the solution to these two grand problems from the very beginning. In the very beginning of creation, our Heavenly Father laid the solution to these now paramount issues. In the very beginning. Let's turn to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. We're going to address health first. It is undeniable that there is a health crisis in the world, and I'm not talking about the COVID-19, although of course that is affecting the entire world, obviously. However, even before COVID-19, there was and still is a major health crisis. People are dying left, right, and center from all manner of diseases that they shouldn't die from. Just yesterday, as I was walking, I saw a big truck on the side of the trailer. It says, "Trucking for a Cure." And everywhere you see that, October, Breast Cancer Month, and you have all these other campaigns for finding cures for various diseases. And every time I see things like that, I say, I know the cure. And you have doctors like Dr. Colin T. Powell and Dr. Esselstein and a plethora. These are just the most popular ones now. But you have hundreds of thousands of doctors preceding them who, and currently now, who are advocating plant-based diet. But they have only rediscovered not what Hippocrates said, even though he was quoted as saying, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food," or "Let thy medicine be thy food." But guess what? They were simply quoting God. In Genesis chapter 1, in verse 26. Now remember, Genesis chapter 1 is the account of creation. Look at verse 26. "And God said, let us make mankind, the human race, in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So we see God creates mankind. Let's see what God designates as mankind's food. Let's go now to verse 29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Now, meat in this context is not talking about animal flesh. It's talking about, it means food. So God says plain and simple, right after he makes human beings, after he makes mankind, he said the thing that you, mankind, human beings, are to eat is plants, plant-based diets, nuts, fruits, grains, okay, seeds. This is what we're supposed to eat. It is the healthiest thing. We're made for that. I mean, what else should be said? You know, if a car manufacturer makes a vehicle that runs on diesel, you can decide to put gasoline in it, but don't expect it to run. Don't expect it to run properly, and don't be surprised when it breaks down. It's not designed for that type of fuel, and vice versa. God told us plainly, say, look, this is what it is. Now the question might be, why did God allow meat and get meat? Listen, that's a study for another time. We're just gonna stick right here to the facts. So we see that God cares, and he has foreknowledge. He knew what would be. And God's way of decreasing and lessening sickness and disease in this world today is causing this truth, which was in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, from the genesis of creation, to come back to the forefront. It was buried. It was not hidden, because it's right here in the Bible. It's right here. But the problem is, we are running at light speed away from God and everything that he has to offer, and all he has is that which is good for us. That's all. But we have a problem. We don't want to obey. We don't want to deny self. And so, number one, solve all the health crises. Guillain-Barré, Alzheimer's, ALS, MS, cancer, you name it. Every single disease is attributable in part, and the major part, to our nutrition, that which we eat. Every single one of them. Now, that is only part of it. God has allowed what we call the health message to shine, and nutrition is only 1/8 of that message. 1/8. There are 8 laws that govern our being. Laws are everywhere. Laws are in everything in nature. Guess what? There is also laws that govern our human constitution, our human physiology, and there are 8 of them. Nutrition is only 1. The other 7, simply this. Okay, well, nutrition, of course, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, trust in God. They sound very simple, but there is science behind every single one of them. I say that it is a law. Okay? That simply means the violation of that law will mean that you will die. Let's test the validity of this. How long will you live without eating food? Approximately 3 weeks, give or take. But eventually you will die. Okay. How long will you survive if you live a sedentary lifestyle? Eventually you will die. The body needs to move and needs to be active. We were created to move. We have limbs and appendages. That means we're supposed to move. We have muscles and a skeletal structure. We're supposed to move. We will die. We must move. Okay, water. How long will you live without water? Approximately 3 days, give or take. Okay, but we will die without water. Sunshine. How long can we survive in an absolute darkness? we will die. First emotionally, then spiritually. Ask those in Alaska and places like these where 6 months out of the year there's no sunshine. Emotionally they're dying, they're depressed, and then they eventually kill themselves. However, without sunshine, plants will die, and so will we. Okay, there's a thing called vitamin D and vitamin D deficiency. It's actually not a vitamin, it's actually a hormone, but nevertheless, when I say vitamin D, you know what I'm talking about. And we will die. Okay, the vitamin D deficiency or hormone D deficiency is actually the root cause of a plethora of diseases also, syndromes actually, all right, moving forward. Okay, where are we? Temperance. If we overdo it on anything, overwork, overeat, anything, we will die. We have to have a balance, okay? We can't overdo it. We will die. We will end our life, and we will shorten our lifespan, okay? All right, air. How long can you survive without breathing? Approximately 3 minutes, give or take, for those obviously who train themselves to be able to hold their breaths longer. But the basis is we must breathe or we will die. Okay, rest. I don't think I need to say anything about that, right? We will die. There's a thing called exhaustion. Okay. And trust in God. Guess what? You will die. If we don't trust fully in God, we will die. What is that death? That's the second death. That's that missing out on everlasting life. Okay. And now the trust in God is at the bottom. It does not mean it is least in importance. As a matter of fact, to the contrary, it is the foundation and the basis for everything else. Foundation and the basis for everything else. So these are the 8 laws. I digress just a little bit, but actually it wasn't a digress. It was important information. So moving forward, the 2 grand themes. What are they? Health, the health crisis, not excluding or necessarily including COVID, but even with that, even with COVID, listen, having a strong immune system, you will defeat it. You will beat it. Not only this one, but every other one. Plain and simple. Now, moving forward, the second grand topic of our day is this is a Sabbath. I'm going to say a Sabbath simply because the Sabbath being proposed to mitigate climate change is not God's Sabbath. Nevertheless, the Sabbath or a Sabbath is what is on the table. This is what is being proposed to solve the problem. And this came to great prominence in light of the COVID-19 shutdown, especially when it was seen that that the air quality in certain countries like India and China and New York City greatly improved because of the shutdown. And so the world saw the value of a day of rest. Well, guess what? At the genesis of creation, once again, God instituted this. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. Okay, and Genesis chapter 2 and verse 1. We'll read verses 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Now, we go forward to Exodus chapter 20, and we read verses 8 through 11, and you'll see that God then made this day of rest a law. And we're going to see why he made it a law. And we will see just how relevant to this current situation it is. So let's go to Exodus chapter 20. We'll begin at verse 8 through 11. So in chapter 20, God is enumerating his law, the moral code of the universe. Okay, the law that governs heaven, not the sky, but heaven, where God lives, where his throne is, and earth, and all the universe, all the other worlds and of unfallen beings. Now, in verse 8, Genesis chapter 20, in verse 8, the Bible reads, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou. So God is saying 6 days you. You who? Who is he speaking to? Humankind. Specifically, the nation of Israel. But Israel was to teach the world. So he's saying, you human beings, mankind, in 6 days do all thy work. All of it. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord. Not my Sabbath or your Sabbath. The Sabbath of the Lord. Because he was the first one to rest in it. Okay? And now he's saying, I have done it. Now you do it. Okay? In it, in what? In the Sabbath of the Lord, the 7th day Sabbath, thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Why? For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So God is saying, plain and simple, you rest, your family rest, and your employees rest, even your animals. Now, in this time period, okay, agriculture, it was an agrarian society, economy, okay, and so the naming of the cattle and the ox and all these animals, these were the tools, if you will, or instruments, if you will, that were used for making money. Okay, for procuring a living. So the principle today is simply, okay, we're not in mainly an agrarian society. We conduct business in different forms. But the point of the matter, the principle is simply this: shut it down. Shut it down. And he says, your maidservant, your manservant, that will be equivalent to your employees. So sure, you have a business and you stop working, your employees must not be made to work either, because guess what? It's benefiting you. And not only is it benefiting you, but guess what? It's for them as well. If you are to rest, why not them? Okay, so no hypocrisy with God here, none whatsoever. Rest. Now, going forward, we're going to see that the Sabbath was instituted not only for human beings to rest and not only for animals to rest. It still pertains to the animals, even though they're not used for our income anymore, but nevertheless still for them, but also for the land to rest. And this is the key issue here now, right? This is the key. It's for the land to rest. Let's turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 36 and verse 21. 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 21. To fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, for as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. Now, the background was simply this: Israel, the nation of Israel, was not obeying God. They were not doing what they were supposed to do. And while they were in their land, they didn't keep the Sabbath. They did not keep the Sabbath, and they did not allow the land to rest. So God says, while you're in captivity, the land is going to rest and enjoy its Sabbaths, because my law is going to be fulfilled. So he says, so we see there that the Sabbath is not only for humans, not only for animals, but also for the land. Okay, it's also for the land. And I'm gonna read off a few more scriptures in just for reference purposes. You can read it on your own. Don't want to make the video too long. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 14, Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 4, or 1 through 4, I should say. It would give you better backdrop and context. You know what? We'll read Leviticus 25. Let's read Leviticus 25. It'll give better context to 2 Chronicles that I just read. And the Lord, Leviticus 25, starting at verse 1, and the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you come into the land which I give you, Then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. Now, anyone who is in agriculture knows that the land must rest and be replenished, because the soil today is depleted because we're not doing that. We're not allowing it to rest. And because the soil is depleted, well, guess what? Where do the fruits and the vegetables gather their nutrients from? The soil. And so if the soil is depleted, then we're basically eating matter. It's not giving us anything. It's not giving us any manganese and magnesium and iron and folate and calcium. It's not giving us the things that we actually need to support our physical constitution. All right? And so we might wonder, okay, I'm eating properly, but I'm not really benefiting much from it. Well, that's because mainstream agriculture is not going by the Bible. Not going by the Bible. And this is another doctrine that we as Seventh-day Adventists hold. It's country living, and a part of that is self-sustainability. Grow your own food. So if each grow their own food and cultivate their land, and you can see, number one, it will be a far less strain on the economy, as well as a stronger nation, because there are things that funds would not need to go to, plain and simple, just to keep it simple. So, not to make this video too long-winded, these are the two grand themes, and both are answered by God before we even knew it was a problem. Before we knew that it came to be an issue, God gave the solution for it. So in other words, if we followed it, it wouldn't be an issue today. Isn't that something? It wouldn't have been an issue today. But because of sin, when sin entered the world, eventually it still would. It will destroy. So in other words, no matter what we do as far as the solution for climate change, it will not do a thing, because God has already declared in his word that this world will end. Why? Because he's going to end it, because it's spinning out of control. It's already out of control. It's unbelievable. And so it says, it's time to put it to an end. It's time to put it to an end. So no matter what we do, so as far as saving the world is concerned, if we want to save the world, obey God. Obey God. Simple. I'm amazed at how long it takes some people to come to certain knowledge. And I have come to this same knowledge, and to not tooting my own horn, because it's nothing of me. It's right here. I study the ancient word. That's why. Okay? Let me just say that. I study the ancient wisdom. And I come to an understanding of this far sooner than they. I've heard people say I've been studying for over 20 years. I've been studying for 7 by the grace of God. And coming to this knowledge and understanding, and not just coming to, we didn't come to the same knowledge. There's some overlap. By the grace of God and God only, I have a far deeper, more profound understanding, because again, plant-based diet is only part, as I said, 1/8 of the formula for a healthy human constitution. This is what, it's a very important 1/8, it certainly is, but without the rest, it'll fall short. It will fall short. So there's more to it than just what you eat. That is very important, but there's more to it. Furthermore, with the day of rest business, it falls short. Number one, the day that's being promoted for rest will not have its desired effect, and here's why. Because it's not what God said. Put it this way: if your doctor tells you exercise for 30 minutes a day, you have to exercise for 30 minutes a day, and you say, I'll exercise for 3, that's good enough, it will not have the desired effect. Plain and simple, because he has given you a prescription, or she has given you a prescription based on the problem. If you decide to change it up, case in point, antibiotics. I think the majority of people can relate to this one. The doctor tells you take all of it until it's finished. There's a reason why he or she tells you that. And the reason is simply this: you want to destroy the the bacteria totally. You need to destroy it totally. If not, you simply make it stronger. Because if you take let's say it's a 7-day antibiotic, you take it for 3 days, and which usually happens, oh, I feel better. And because we feel better, oh, we'll stop taking it. But what has simply happened is that the bacterial count, the number, has decreased to a point manageable, I guess you could say, right? And so manifestation of symptoms are not there, and you feel better. You feel better, but it's still there. The bacteria is still there. The bacterial load is still there. It's just lower. Now you stop taking it. You basically teach the bacteria how to become resistant to that antibiotic. So you stop, then the bacteria proliferates because it wasn't eradicated. It comes back stronger than before, and now you need a stronger antibiotic. Because the antibiotic that you used before can't do it anymore, because it basically figured out how to beat that antibiotic now. So if we don't follow the prescription to the letter, to the T, we cannot expect the desired outcome. It will not happen. Just plain and simple, it's not going to happen. So God is telling us the 7th day is my day. The 7th day is the Sabbath day. This is the day that all things should rest. We decide to choose another day. Hey, we'll just do Sunday. Hey, Saturday, we'll just do Sunday. It'll do the same. No, it won't. Simply because we're looking for God's blessing, and God cannot and will not bless disobedience and sin. If He would, if He will, why in the world are we in this condition now? Why was Adam and Eve kicked out of the garden? Why did Christ have to come and die for sin? It won't happen. So my dear friends, I just wanted to show that God has put some amazing wisdom in His Word, and we have run at light speed away from it, and it has only led to our detriment. And so this is an appeal to come back to God. And again, this is primarily for those who are not Christians, but who see a problem in the world, and who are coming to a solution, or coming to the idea of a solution, simply because God in His mercy has caused the light to shine back on this truth again. But you see the reference point in the Bible. In the very beginning, God instituted this thing. So dive into your Bible and see what else He says. See what other solutions are offered and given. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed, because we live in a world of sin that's plagued with problems. And while these are the two grand ones, there are others, right? There are others. So my dear friends, I hope you were blessed by this. I did try my best to condense this information. It's a lot of information, as much as possible. Any questions, type them in the comment box. Reach out to me. Bible studies. All right, be blessed, dear friends. Be blessed.